Welcome to Love and Money Secrets TV. I'm your host, Dame Lillian Walker, and I just wanted to break the silence. I have been in quiet mode for the last, I'd say, going on 4 weeks now, because I've been busy writing a book called The Intuition Manifesto. And I know some of you are eagerly awaiting to receive the book so that you can give me feedback. I have a beta group of folks that have volunteered to read the book and give me feedback on it. It's very exciting. And so I'm sure some of you are thinking, what happened to her? She was posting videos almost every day and, becoming supernatural and breaking the habit of becoming yourself and all this really guided healing information that I've been sharing with you. And we've been reading, reviewing, and applying it. And so I just got back from getting a couple of medical certifications, and I'm very excited about that. But that's not what this broadcast is about. I just was I'm a book lover. So one of the things that I do have to confess is I absolutely love and adore to read books. And not really, most of the books that I have are all having to do with personal growth, business books, spirituality, entrepreneurship, positive mental attitude books. In fact, speaking of positive mental attitude books, probably the first influencer in my life through my dad, because my dad was also a student of Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. I have another one of Dr. Vincent Peale's books that I've probably had it for like 30 years, to be honest with you. So Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, he talks about the true joy of positive living, the power of positive thinking. I actually have a book that's actually green colored that is called The Power of Positive Thinking. And he was the first individual that I read and listened to on TV that talked about how you could not afford the luxury of a negative thought. And that has really carried me very, very well. In my particular case, I'm very fortunate that I was wired and predisposed, I should say, to looking at things on the bright side of life, always looking at the silver lining on every cloud, looking at a glass as half full, and so forth. And I had a father who was very much into these spiritual principles. He never called it metaphysics. He just said they were, timeless truths that have been here since man has been on the planet. And so for that, Dad, Papa, I got to thank you for that. So this is a great book. If you haven't read it, I would highly encourage you to read that. So moving on here, the thing that prompted me to get on here and do this broadcast with you guys is because I'm always rifling through my books. I'm one of those people who once I get a book and I really love the book and it resonates with me, I reread my books, and I always date when I first read them, second time I read them, etc. And in doing so, I came across this was the emergency medical technician book that I had to study to become an emergency med tech in the 80s. And I became an emergency medical technician, paramedic, level one back in the 80s. And I was rifling through this book. I was actually looking for another book, believe it or not. And as I opened this book, my daughter, I showed it to her and she said, "Oh, that's vintage, Mom." This is a emergency medical, um, Infield Medical was a private ambulance company that I worked for. We did a lot of TV shows that required emergency medical services to be on the premises. So for example, any car races required that, motocross, motorcycle races, ATVs, ATQs. We used to have Ascot Racetrack here in Gardena, which I don't believe exists any longer. Irvine Raceway, we did the Olympics. We did a lot of different events. We did Charles in Charge, shows from the 80s and the 90s. So Charles in Charge, that's incredible. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So it just so happens that I happen to have a copy of one of these reports in here. I'm not going to tell you the date of when it is. I'm just amused that I even have a copy. I had no memory of my having this copy, but I have all three copies of this particular report. And I thought, oh, how cool is that? It's kind of it's kind of taking me down memory lane. And my daughter, she's so cute. My daughter tells me, I told her this is over 20 years old. And she says to me, well, you know, Mom, anything over 20 years old is vintage. And I thought, oh my gosh. Um, I'm kind of taken aback that I would be old enough to have anything vintage. And she said, well, it's over 20 years old, so it's vintage. And she's 20 years old, so it's just kind of funny to me that she would consider this as something that was vintage. So I have, I guess, a lot of vintage books, come to find out. So I just had to share with you that little chuckle. I thought that was kind of funny. While I was at it, I also pulled one of the first books aside from Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. I probably read that book when I was like 13, 14 years old. So then when I was a junior in high school, I read the legendary Dr. Hugs, who was a driving force for me to want to go to USC, even though that was not my first choice. My first choice, I will admit now, and people who went to high school with me know this, and they're the only group who knows this, but I really wanted, UCLA was my first choice, USC was my second choice. USC was my father's dream. He wanted all of us to go to USC, and 2 out of his 3 kids went to USC. I'm going to say so far because it's never too late. I have a brother who, my younger brother went, both of my brothers are younger. So one of my youngest brother went to USC. So I'm the oldest. My youngest brother went to SC. My middle brother hasn't gone to USC yet. I'm going to say yet because he's still young enough where he still has another 40, 50 years. He could go to SC if he chose to. He's actually, IQ wise, he's the smartest of the 3 of us. So anything is possible. You just have to choose it. And honestly, it doesn't matter what your IQ is. You can do anything. You know, that's why my motto is dream the impossible dream. It's possible. So the book, so I won't tease you anymore. It's a book on love. And Dr. Leo Buscaglia, a fellow paisano from the old country, Italian American, he was actually a teacher at USC, a professor. His classes were, they don't say sold out when you go to the university, but they're completely filled and overflow with waiting lists. By the time I got to SC, he was on sabbatical and then he never came back. Boo-hoo. So I never got to see him in person, but I saw so many PBS shows, different shows on TV where he was featured. He was an amazing guy. Great little book. This book is only, I had so many of my friends that I recommended this book to. And this book was just a little 200-page book. 200, 202, sorry, tell you how many pages. 207 pages, this little book, little pocket-sized book. So it's a warm and wonderful book about the largest experience in life, and it is love in its truest form. Not only his experiences, but how you can apply it to your own life. Interestingly enough, my son, when he was in high school, not too long ago, he never read this book. I never told him about this book, but again, I think it's something that's kind of ingrained in your blood and in your DNA. And he actually one day came home from school with a white t-shirt. He had taken a Sharpie marker and he had written on it really large letters, hugs, and then he put a dollar sign, just a $1. And he did it to be funny because he was 3 out of the 4 years that he went to high school, he was captain of the improv team. And so everybody apparently was giving him hugs. And he actually came home with a few dollars on him. He did the dollar thing as a kind of a joke thing. And much to his surprise, a lot of the girls wanted to hug him and give him a dollar for the hug. So I thought that was really funny because Dr. Leo Buscaglia was named Dr. Hugs. So I guess my son could be Dr. Hugs the second, perhaps. Anyhow, the junior. Okay, moving on. So I showed you about the emergency care book. Little selfless plug here. This was the first book I ever wrote. I really couldn't remember when I wrote my first book. This book was written in 2011. And I don't want to say anything more about that other than this is my newest book. And I'll do a little share screen because right now I'm taking a break to do this broadcast with you. And I'm going to share with you the book that I'm currently writing. which is this book right here. And it's called The Intuition Manifesto, How to Unlock the Gateway to Your Dreams. I'm actually on page 17, I believe, out of almost 100 pages. If you see here, let me see if you can see this. This is the cover of the book. And I'm going to switch my screen share to show you a little quick peek. Here I am. If any of you have wondered what it looks like to be editing the book, you'll see here I'm actually on page 18. I thought it was page 17. So I talk about on page 18, as luck would have it, I'm talking about how to get into theta state to tap in deeper into your intuition. So I'm hoping to have this book done later this week, enough so that I can give it to those of you who I've promised that you're going to get the first ebook version of it before I actually print it and have it published. And then we'll continue to move forward with that. So anyhow, moving on. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys is this book. This kind of shows, let's see, I got this book from Dr. Devi. Dr. Devi Nambudripad, an amazing healer. She's now retired. An incredible gold mine gift to planet Earth. She started going into health and the medical industry, became a Western MD, couldn't find a way to heal herself of all these allergies. Her allergies were so severe from the time she was a child to a young adult, where she could only eat rice and broccoli for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. If she deviated or even touched so much as a carrot, a bell pepper, or anything, she would break out into this horrible oozing eczema, and her skin would ooze and bleed. And it was really a horrible, horrible, violent allergic reaction that she had. And so in her quest to find a way to heal herself, she ended up getting multiple medical degrees and also got an Asian medical, Oriental medicine degree, and yada, yada. As a result of her combining the different modalities, also became an acupuncturist, also a chiropractor. So again, in her quest of really finding a way to heal herself, she stumbled upon a way to eliminate all allergies and retrain the brain to no longer create antihistamines. And so she created something called the NAET, that's Nambudripad Allergy Elimination Technique. So I used to have allergies. I don't have any allergies anymore, thanks to Dr. Devi. I had 20 treatments from her. She actually did some kinesiology and muscle testing on me to see how many treatments I was going to need. And she eliminated me from a whole host of things. That's a whole other ball of wax. We'll talk about that on another episode. So I don't have any allergies to anything as of right now. So, and then I started to study the NAET system. It's a phenomenal system. I don't do acupuncture, but I do acupressure on myself. And I've done it a little bit on others, but not that much. But this is a fantastic book. It talks about all the different meridian systems. I'll show you a picture of this. Is what she looks almost the same. I got to tell you, this woman does not age. And let me show you some of the, it has wonderful information. It's all based on the meridian systems and the energy grid systems of the body. Talks about isolating blockages in the body, and it gives you the actual meridian points that you need to do acupressure on in order to eliminate whatever it is that's presenting, also related to whatever organ or system in the brain. So it says here about isolating blockages. For those of you who are more medically geeky like I am, it has wonderful diagrams. This particular broadcast is not to promote any one book. I'm just kind of sharing with you some of what I've been exposed to. I've been studying this my whole life. Here is actually Dr. Debbie's daughter, if I'm not daughter, sister, Mala, and she's showing an electrical muscle testing kinesiology technique to verify if something is taking power away from you or giving you power, which is one of the ways that you can determine and confirm if you in fact have an allergic reaction or something is not beneficial for you. So fantastic book. I can't talk enough about this. I have multiple, I probably have 4 or 5 of her books. She's probably written 25, 30 books, but this is a fantastic book as well. And then another book that kind of shares with you a little bit about my journey about moving energy, and a lot of my quest in terms of healing and so forth has been paralleled with my journey to confirm what I've intuitively known, but I needed another way of verifying, not just for myself, in part for myself, but also for verification for others, to increase awareness. And so this book is by Richard Gordon. He was a guest on my radio show, The Bottom Line Show Live, and this one talks about the new human. See, I keep on giving you guys evidence. You don't have to be polished. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be articulate to share your giftedness, whatever it is that you have been placed on this planet for whatever purpose. Because you see, I mumble and jumble all the time, and it's like, quite frankly, I think it's funny. It's not even humbling anymore, because if it were humbling, that means that I would be embarrassed. That means I would be ashamed. And I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. That would be way too egoic of me to care and to be so self-conscious that I'd be, oh, I did something wrong. We're all going to do something wrong. We got to learn how to loosen up and laugh. There I go again. Laugh at ourselves. As my kids used to say, and they still do when we have dinner, we all have dinner together. We laugh a lot at our dinner table, and we always sit down as a family, and they've always made the distinction, probably from the time my oldest son, he's the biggest comedian, from the time he was in junior high, he started making the distinction, Mom, we're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you. And I thought that was so funny. And it's something that comes up often. So in your case, whether you're laughing at me, you're laughing with me, I don't mind either way, as long as you're laughing. Because if you're laughing, you're getting a nice little oxytocin brain bath, which benefits your entire body, which predisposes your body to healing. So I don't say things to be funny, but sometimes I do goofy things and I can laugh at myself. So if you want to laugh at me or with me, I welcome you. So getting back to Richard Gordon and the New Human, he's written several quantum energy books. In fact, you probably can see back here, probably with the reflection right there, there's the Quantum Touch book, which I took that program, phenomenal quantum touch energy moving healing modality. And, you know, in this particular book, he also talks about the sacred geometry, which has to do with certain geometrical patterns that are evident in our bodies, even at the cellular level. Dr. Imarasu Emoto also talks about that, the late Dr. Emoto, because he has now since passed. But I'm sure those of you who have watched What the Bleep and you have watched a lot of these different quantum physics programs and so forth were aware of the groundbreaking work that he did when he took water. He spoke, wrote, or read a word, a positive word or a negative word, like love as opposed to hate, um, goodness as opposed to like the picture of a swastika on it, and so on and so forth. And then he froze the water and looked at it under a microscope. And what he discovered and unveiled was absolutely groundbreaking, because the words that had a positive vibrational energy associated, like love, joy, faith, happiness, ecstatic, exuberance, all had beautiful snowflake symmetrical like patterns in crystalline form, as opposed to the water who had words of hate, anger, jealousy, rage, whether they were thought, spoken, or labeled or read upon the water. The water then didn't have a crystalline form when it was frozen. It was actually all jumbled up, and even though the waters in the glass were all clear. Fascinating research. If you're not familiar with that work, get on YouTube, Google Dr. Emoto, Emoto, and water, crystallized water, frozen water, and you'll see there's a preponderance of of evidence there and information, which is very important to all of us because our bodies, depending on whether you're a baby, you're made up of over 80% water. If you're a baby, if you're a grown up, it's going to be somewhere in the 70 to 80% range because we lose water as we get older. But we are made up of water. So the words we think, the words we speak, the words we read, the words we hear do affect us at a cellular level. So that is the book Quantum Touch 2.0. You'll see right here. And The New Human. And I thought in 2020, this is such an appropriate thing to think about because right now we are undergoing as an entire planet, and it's affecting all the other planets, all the other galaxies, the other dimensions too, because we're all connected. It's inevitable. So we are undergoing a transformation and a change at a light level, at a cellular level, at a crystalline level. That is another conversation that could go another couple hours. So we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but I do want to just bring that to your attention. So I think I've shared, so these several books. I've had some people ask me about the different books that I've read that I would recommend. I have a treasure trove of books. I have two bookcases of books. I actually have three bookcases of books, and I have several others here in my home. So that's it. That's all I want to say now. I am very excited about coming out with the Intuition Manifesto, and things are looking up. I want to have a shout out here for my friends that are in Verona, Italy. They were just hit with a terrible hailstorm. They had 110-mile-an-hour winds. My understanding is that there were almost a dozen people who passed away from that terrible event. So I send loving thoughts and goodwill to those who are affected by that tragedy. A lot of devastation, trees that fell on cars and homes, and it's a mess. So there's a lot of shifting, changing, adjusting that's going on. In contrast to hail and snow being in Verona in August, which is very peculiar, we also have this past week that we've had thunderstorms in Huntington Beach, thunderstorms and hot, humid rains. And we had over 10,000, almost 11,000 lightning strikes within a 72-hour period at the same time that we had a coronal mass ejection of plasma that was emitted from the sun and hit our planet. And we went from 300 to over 600 fires here in this past week. So I'm just going to say it. We're having a shitstorm right now on top of everything else. You know, the Black Lives Matter, the coronavirus, politics are, that's never going to change. And now we have all these raging fires through northern, southern California, Nevada, Arizona, Wyoming. They're all over our country. It's not just our country. Our world is really being put through extreme pressure. And I think if you want to look at this metaphorically, it's kind of like we've been this huge lump of coal. And there's an extreme amount of pressure that's required to convert a large lump of coal to turn into a large, gorgeous, highly prized and valuable diamond. And so we are all collectively, animals, plants, any being on this planet included, not just as human beings. As human beings, we tend to be selfish and we just think about ourselves, think about our family, about our friends, and everybody else is on the outs. But make no mistakes, more than ever, our entire planet, if you haven't been aware of this before, I want you to be aware and take notice now as I speak these words, as you understand and hear the truth with which I am sharing with you these things that you really already know. This earth, this global blue marble that hangs out in outer space, is a living, breathing organism. It expands and it contracts just like your body. Just as your body houses billions of other organisms and trillions of cells, you may as well look at your body as a mini globe, even though we're not shaped round like the planet, but we're just like the planet because our bodies, we have trillions of cells, trillions of organisms, bacteria. We have viruses that don't overtake our body, that are just laying in there, that our body goes, oh, no problem, that's a virus. We'll knock that down. We'll knock that down. That's the function of your IgA levels, of your immunoglobulin levels, which are produced by your DNA. And so we can go down the whole biophysical, neuroanatomical science aspect of it, but I will spare you those details now. I'm not going to go hyper geek on you. Or as my son so eloquently and so, in my opinion, comically says, turbo geek. He calls that turbo geeking out. So he should know. He's a double engineer himself. Anyhow, that's it. I hope you enjoyed tuning in, tapping, and turning on to this broadcast. If you're interested in getting a copy of the Intuition Manifesto, it will be out. I'm hoping in the next 60 days I will have the published book form available, as well as the ebook form completed so that the public can have it. Right now, my inner circle of mystics and fellow healers, I'm getting feedback from them. They'll get the first batch of the ebook so that I can refine and define it before I actually print it and release it in public. If you'd be interested in being part of the beta group, I have just a couple more slots available that I might be able to make that available. After that, when we launch it, it'll be available. I'm going to have a promotional price for it. It's probably going to be $15.95 when I pull it out into to the marketplace, and we will have a special promo to launch that so that you're able to enjoy it, receive it, and accept it and believe it, because a lot of what's in there has nothing to do with your belief. It's stuff that you already know, but that was really a truly divinely inspired book. And you'll hear about the story of how it came to being, because I had no intention of writing the book. And believe it or not, I wrote it in a day. In 9 hours, I wrote this book from when I had started writing till I finished it. So it's taking a lot longer to edit it, format it. Took 2 days to create the cover. I created the cover. So that's it. I want to thank you for tuning in, tapping, and turning on today to Love and Money Secrets TV. And oh, by the way, if you're interested in being notified and getting more of my videos, make sure you like that like button, because that tells YouTube that not only you liked this video, but it'll also suggest other videos like this to you, and vice versa. To people who are looking for content like this, it'll throw this in the suggested videos for them. If you hit that bell notification button, then every time I go live, you will be notified. And if I premiere a video, or not if, when I premiere a video, I have a whole queue and stack. I'm so backlogged right now. But whenever I have a new video, you will be informed, and then you can be alerted when the video premieres, and then you can join us. I do have an exciting guest I want to promote. Oh my gosh. I just, on a footnote here, I am so lucky and so blessed. I've been able to guide and help heal over 223 people in the last 14 days. It's been an incredible blessing. And one of those people, who is a hypnotist herself, I'm going to promote her. She's from Wyoming. Her name is Pam Tolman. She's going to be a guest on Love and Money Secrets TV. You'll see that Pam is a amino acids, Reiki, and hypnotherapist. Boy, does this woman have a story. It's gonna amaze you. And I was very blessed to be able to be part of her healing process. And I had a download to integrate certain modalities and incorporate a skill set that I have involving water, much to my surprise, and it worked. And I thank God that I listened to my intuition. I didn't worry about sounding silly or embarrassing myself. I said, hey, I think I can bring back your memory, which is a crazy thing to think or to say, but I knew it wasn't mine. And so she happened to be in my certification class for Chinese medical face reading. And she said, yeah, let's try it. And the rest is history. Now she has all these memories from childhood that she's been able to recapture. that were locked away in a part of her brain after being shot. It was gone for over 20 years, and now she has it back. So you're going to get to hear straight from her experience. I do have a video interview that I did with her, which is a precursor to that show. So I'm going to be uploading that. After discussing it with her, I've decided we are not going to edit it. We're not going to put an intro, an outro. I'm just going to upload it raw. So you're going to have it in raw format so that you don't think that I've tinkered with anything in the message that was conveyed during that interview. And it was just a video conference call that her and I had. It was not intended originally to be out in public, but as it unfolded, it became obvious to me that this would be of great benefit to you, the person that's watching this video right now. So I hope you enjoy that. After I upload this video, I need to get back to my book editing, and then I'm gonna promise you that I hesitate to promise, because if I promise, that means that come hell or high water, no matter what, I got to do it. So I don't take my promises lightly. I'm a very loyal, my word is my bond. If I say I'm going to do something, I'd rather not say promise. I'd say, well, I'll do my best, which leaves me a little open and a little wiggle room. So I'm actually promising that I'm going to get that video out in the next 24 hours. I'll get it uploaded. Those of you who have YouTube channels, those of you who upload to YouTube, you know that sometimes those longer videos can take hours to upload and to render. So anyhow, that's it. That's all I have for you now. Thank you for tuning in, tapping, and turning on. I'm honored, blessed, and excited that you're here. And as always, ciao for now. Bye-bye.